Welcome to episode 5 of All Things in the Name of Love. Today I have with me guest Kathleen Donnelly Israel. She is the author of uh sorry, she's the author of the book Wisdom on the Camino. She talks about her experiences on the Camino, her energy healing, her awarenesses of trauma as a pathway to unconditional love, and so much more. So please join me on this journey with Kathleen as we explore the Camino. Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today I have with me beautiful soul, Kathleen Israel, who, among other things, is the author of Wisdom of the Camino. And I can just tell that she's a beautiful soul. And we connected a couple weeks ago through email, and I'm just really looking forward to having this conversation with you. So thank you so much for being with me, Kathleen. I so appreciate you.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So right before I pressed record, we were talking not necessarily the journey, because as I'll let her explain, the trip wasn't as enlightening as the post trip, but I do want you to share the trip and what came from it and what inspired you to do it, excuse me, in the first place.
I was a caregiver for my husband for he had Parkinson's
Oh, wow.
from 2001 to 2018. And the last 10 years he was totally disabled.
Oh,
And so I like I had to come to grips with my future wasn't going to be what I thought. I thought Ron and I would be riding our bicycles across France or something in our old age. And that was not going to happen.
yeah.
And so while I was caring for him around 2013, my girlfriend went on the Camino and she shared it on Facebook. And even though she was walking with bloody feet and, and, you know, I just recognized she was doing something very special for herself. And right at that time, I said, you know what, when Ron's done with his disease, I'm going to do that.
Mm.
And Judy was still working, so she couldn't do the whole thing. But
Okay.
after Ron was dead, I didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Um, so he died in August, and so by January, I had all the paperwork done and everything. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go, I better learn how to do this, So
Yeah.
I had been walking like 5 miles 3 days a week.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I knew I could do it, because I walked down at the bay with my friend Severa, and we walked 5 miles and it didn't even make me sweat. And I thought, well, I can ride 5 miles before lunch and 5 miles after lunch, and I can do this.
Yeah.
And so 10 miles, 10 miles a day, 500 miles. So that's 50 days. And I just thought I gave myself 3 months to do it, actually.
Good. Good.
Um, and that's when I had my airfare home, was 3 months. And so it actually took me 66 days,
Okay.
but I took every Sunday off
Good.
because I would get in on Sunday and I would just flop on the bed because I was so tired. And
Mm.
then I would be like, oh yeah, mass, when's mass? And there invariably I would miss it. And so I thought, gee, you're going on this holy pilgrimage and you're not even going to mass on Sunday? I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
so. So so that's why I decided I would go into a town on Saturday nights and I had to get a hotel to stay 2 nights.
Okay.
So I get a hotel and I'd, um, you know, be a tourist on Sunday after mass, and then I would leave Monday morning.
Nice.
So it just turned out really good that I was doing that. And it just seemed like I would try and schedule it so I would be in a big town on Sunday. And so there would be, I could go look at the cathedral or whatever.
Mm.
Um, so let's see what else. I I really enjoyed the trip. Oh yeah, I took Holy Week off too.
Oh,
So,
good.
that, and it was like those Spanish people really know how to do Holy Week. My gosh. They, they had drums, they had these guys with these cone head hats on, purple cone head hats, and their face was covered, and they were drumming, and they were they would just go through the whole town. Like, we would, these little towns, the streets aren't very wide, and I was with the procession, and so we would like fill up the whole street, and people would come out on their balconies and watch and stuff. And Holy Week was, I I don't know. I went in and I sat with the single old ladies. So I figured we were all the widows. And after a while, they would smile at me because they recognized me,
Mhm.
so that made me feel good.
Yeah.
Um, and they, I was there one night, and all this drumming and walking through the town. And then I was standing up by the cathedral, and this man pointed down the street, and like I was taking a video, and he was pointing down the street. So I looked down the street, and from the right was coming Our Lady of Sorrows, this giant statue of the Blessed Mother in black. And
Wow.
then on from the other direction was a statue of Jesus carrying his cross.
Oh, wow.
And then when they saw each other, they stopped the drumming, and then they went dun dun dun. It was just like so
Wow.
dramatic. It's like,
Wow.
ah, I couldn't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
so that was very exciting for me. Uh, and so while Ron was sick, I I had a lot of trauma as a child. My life was traumatic when I was a child. And so I just kind of lived with that all my life. And while Ron was sick, I had to be home.
Hmm.
And so in the evening, I would go online, and there was this guy, Darius Barazunda, and he had healers on his show,
Hmm.
and I would listen to them. And if it spoke to me, I would like buy their program,
Hmm.
and I would do their program, listen to the sleep tapes, do everything. And then after a while, that one would be less interesting, and I felt like God was sending me another teacher after that.
Hmm.
And just all that, for like 8 years, I was studying online all these enlightened thought leaders.
Oh,
And I
wow.
felt like I knew some stuff that I could share with people. I did a lot of healing, really amazing
Beautiful.
healing during that time. So that's why I wanted to write the book.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when I got home from the Camino, I was like, well, it's time to write the book. And so I made the outline of all the things I wanted to talk about. And then I was just like, oh, I didn't want to be teachy. I didn't really know how to be teachy.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I remembered I told people on the Camino all those things. And so I I changed my so I just wrote on each of my teachings, I wrote who I told it to. And
Mm.
then I made a timeline of where I met them. And that's how I wrote the book. I wrote the book about walking the Camino and telling people my teachings.
Beautiful.
So
I
so
love
that's what
that.
it is.
I love that. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. I know Darius. I get his emails all the time. I haven't subscribed to any programs yet, but I love his energy. He's just such a beautiful soul.
I
And
can't believe he's still doing it.
I
I mean,
know it's amazing. And but it shows me his commitment to helping people wake up.
I know. And he was like, he really did that with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Beautiful. I love
Mm.
that. And what what kind of what kind of things do you like to talk about to help others wake up?
Oh, well, one of the things that I learned was Ho'oponopono. Have you ever heard of that?
Hmm.
Yeah, I really healed so much from the Ho'oponopono. Uh, so it's I love you, and it's a big I love you. I love God, God loves me, God loves the other person loves God, and if you can say it, you say I love them. And then I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. And it's not I'm sorry I did anything, but I'm sorry the situation exists between us.
Mhm.
And please forgive me. And it's not forgive me, I did something, but forgive me for what's going on in me that caused me to attract that. So I
Mhm.
have buttons that people can push inside of me, and it hurts me so deeply that I never want to see them again. I mean, I hate them, you know.
Mhm.
And so please forgive me for what's going on in me that caused me to attract this.
Mhm.
And then thank you. Thank you for showing me this so I could heal. So if I didn't have that pain in my heart, I wouldn't know about it, number one, and I couldn't heal it.
Right.
So thank you for showing me this so I could heal. And
Mm.
then the big I love you again. I love God, God loves me, God loves the other person loves God. And probably by then you can say, I love them and they
Mhm.
love me. So I was on vacation with Ron, my husband, and we were in Maryland, actually. Um, and one night I was laying in bed and my monkey mind just kept bringing up really awful things to think about. And you know, the way people hurt me and stuff like that. And so I thought, oh, I'll do the Ho'oponopono on this. So I was doing the Ho'oponopono every time I thought of something like that. And I was starting to feel shame. And I was like, oh, I must be doing it wrong because it's not about shame at all.
Right, right.
And so I changed it up a bit.
Okay.
And so when I said, please forgive me, then I said, I forgive me. And
Mm.
I said, I forgive it up. And I felt like the first time I did that, I felt a giant refrigerator sized pain come out of my heart and go up to God. And I was
Wow.
like, whoa, that was wonderful. And
Yeah.
so my monkey mind didn't give up. So all night long I kept thinking of stuff. And then I
Mhm.
do I call it my extended Ho'oponopono. And so I just did the extended Ho'oponopono, and I just kept having all this stuff come out of my heart. And also, I asked the angels to help, like untie it or
Mhm.
pull it out to the beginning of my being, or you know, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to think of how to get it out if it felt
Mhm.
like it was stuck,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, and so anyway, by morning, I had not slept all night, but I felt so clear.
Yeah.
And I just have been doing that ever since. And
Mhm.
the Ho'oponopono is just it's like a miracle
Mhm.
because you don't need to do it with the other person.
Right.
And it looses our binds to them, the ones who hurt us so deeply,
Mhm.
looses the binds. So we aren't, they're not bound to us like maybe they signed up to ruin our life when they came in. Who knows? And so it just looses that bind that
Yeah.
we have with those people.
Yeah, I
So
have had
that
that.
really helped me.
I did Vishen
Oh, you did? Yeah,
channeling.
I'm doing that now.
Yeah, I did the Silva
Oh no,
method
yes, the
and I
Silva method.
loved it. I loved it. It was right after my dad died in 2010 and I just he um he shot his soul shot across the universe
Mm,
because he was paralyzed for 3 months. And so um that happened and I'm like, okay, I don't know a single thing anymore. And somehow he had a meditation back then that was a 7-part thing. And one of them was forgiveness. And I listened to that on and off for like 6 years, like pretty much on instead of on and off. But it was like every day I'd like be healing and healing and healing and healing. And then I came
mm,
across the Silva method and I was like, oh, I like this. And then I started receiving body talk sessions. And so it's like energy healing. It's all energy healing. Like how do we heal ourselves from our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, because we're divine beings, and to like get rid of everything that keeps us from remembering that is quite a process, but really rewarding.
I I I found that okay, so after I did that Ho'oponopono for a
Mhm,
long time, I
mhm.
met this lady that I used to know. We teach breathing together.
Cool.
And she said to me, she said, Kathleen, you don't have all those spirits hanging around you anymore. And
Wow.
so I think what I think is because I had that troubled childhood that I was just a sad person all my life.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I was attracting free floating sad spirits, and they were just attaching themselves to me so they could feel their sadness through me.
Wow.
And so doing that Ho'oponopono released
Mhm.
them away from me. I got rid of that was part of what I got rid of.
That's beautiful.
I know. I'm
Beautiful.
so happy.
Well, and that's such a fun thing because we weren't taught about non-physical energy, right?
Mhm.
So for your friend to be like, "Oh, you don't have that," like, I mean, you could feel it,
Yeah, I don't see spirits, but she obviously did.
right? But you
And
felt it,
yeah, I was sad, but I mean I was sad from my birth. I was
right?
sad,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I remember when I was a teenager, my mother said, "Well, no wonder you never have any friends. You never smile." But yeah, I was a sad person because yeah, they anyway, my dad was a
You're sensitive.
alcoholic, rageaholic child molester.
Mm-mm.
So I had some stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you're an empath, so like being a sensitive person, like that, it hurts even more because as you unwind the traumas, like I didn't have the traumas my mom had, but because I was so sensitive, I actually got affected by them.
Oh, yeah.
So
Right.
like I didn't have no like Brussels sprouts. This is funny. My mom had a traumatic experience with Brussels sprouts where she didn't want to eat them, and her uncle wouldn't let her get away from the table until she ate them, so she had them cold with hardened butter. The way she described it to me, I didn't eat Brussels sprouts until I was 40.
Oh my gosh.
I was so traumatized by her story. I'm like, why would I eat those things? That sounds awful. And then I finally
Uh,
had one and I was like, why did I not eat Brussels sprouts? So, but that's, when you're sensitive, sometimes that happens. You take on the energy of your parents and your ancestors, um, because you signed up to clear it.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. I I believe that I was a low vibrational spirit out in the universe with God. And I heard that if you come into the earth, you can raise your vibration
Mm,
with unconditional love. And so I decided, even knowing because I had a low vibration, I was going to attract a really horrible life.
mhm,
I decided to come in anyway
mhm.
so I could raise my vibration because I wanted to be close to God, and God has a very high vibration.
Yeah.
And so anyway, uh, that's what I did. And the thing about having a troubled life is you can't really do unconditional love unless you have adversity, because it's
Mhm,
easy to love the people who love you.
mhm,
And so, the trauma was the cure, actually. And now I don't feel like I need to forgive anybody anymore. I mean, I think forgiveness is really important,
mhm,
obviously. Uh, but I just realized that I attracted it all, not
mhm.
in a shame way, but in a let's not be a victim way. I
Right,
mean,
right.
what really happened was I attracted all that stuff from all
Oh,
those
yeah.
people.
Oh, I know I did. I know I did. I attracted so many. My big thing was codependency.
Mm.
Parents were, and I'm sure many, many ancestors were, and to find the many, many layers of that to heal within, because it's just, the onion layers, and it's like, oh, okay. And getting to the space where I can see the tendencies now, but I don't participate in them anymore because I know what they are, because that was something I signed up to heal for me
Mm.
and for my ancestors. And it's like, okay, these are really interesting patterns that I see. And those buttons that you say, I've had lots of people press my buttons, and what I've done, because I've done somatic healing, I can start crying when I feel the button getting pressed, and then I thank the person that pressed the button because
Oh,
I
how
can't see
sweet.
it. But sometimes I just can't like leave, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be crying right now while I'm processing this, but thank you so much for showing this, because I couldn't have seen it. I'm sobbing.
Oh.
But it is for our healing. All of
Hmm.
those triggers, all of those buttons are for us to see so we can heal.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I tell people is don't worry,
Yeah.
because worry is like making up a sad story
Hmm.
and believing in it. And
Hmm.
then it's almost like you're cursing the people you're worried about because you're
Hmm.
sending bad vibrations to them.
I like that.
And so you need to make up a good story. I mean,
Mm.
I know that because we're traumatized, we are looking out for anything that could be traumatic for us. So, we're tracking for it.
Hmm.
And so it needs a retraining really,
Hmm.
because like if you're worried about somebody, uh, you're not helping them out.
Right.
And you could make up it's just a made it up story because there's endless possibilities of what could happen.
Hmm.
And so it's good to make up a good story and put a
Yes.
good spin on it for them.
Hmm.
It's like a blessing.
Hmm. Whenever I feel like I'm getting attached to somebody's um whatever they're going through, I stop myself and I pray for the highest unfolding for them, because then it detaches me from having to worry. And then I know that my intention is for them to have whatever the highest unfolding is for them. And then I don't have to get into that frame of mind where I'm concerned or worried about them.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah. I like that. I don't need to worry about my friends. We're all adults, but if I know there's something going on, like one of my friends had car problems today, I just prayed for the highest unfolding for the car. I don't know what that is, but I don't need
Right.
to. I just know that I put that out there as the intention. And so hopefully that will happen. Whatever the car needs is for the highest unfolding. And then I don't have to worry about it.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting how vibrations work.
Yeah, we send out vibrations, and the vibration that we send out brings in vibrations from other, you know, other places. One thing about like being sad is that like I say, those free floating sad spirits are attracted to you and they hook on.
Hmm.
I think that one of the reasons why people didn't like me is because their spirit saw my spirit covered with all these, awful spirits, and they were like, "Get me out of here!" Like, I don't. Although, we don't know what's going on, but
Right.
our spirits do,
Hmm. They do.
and I didn't know what was going on. What I wish I had learned this. I was in my 60s when I figured it out that
Yeah.
I didn't have to be a victim.
Mm.
I wasn't a victim. I brought it in, all
Right.
of it.
Right.
I
Yeah, it would
didn't.
be great if we could teach younger ones this awareness, because it was.
So yeah, but the unconditional love thing,
Mhm.
it's more sweet when you
Yeah.
can, have the adversity to love through.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, to love someone that's been antagonistic to you because you brought it in is it's amazing how transformational that can be.
Yeah, we don't yeah, I'm just really happy not to be a victim anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
That's such
uh
an important shift.
when I get out, when I am out somewhere and like something crazy happens, then I just maybe it was my fault. And I used to just be, oh no, I detained somebody, or um I gave the wrong impression or whatever it is. So nowadays what I do is I congratulate myself for being out there, because if you're out there, then things like that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I honor my valiant spirit that was willing to come here and experience all this stuff so I could raise my vibration.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love that.
mhm.
I love that because having that shift is, I think our culture, I won't say it encourages, but there's a lot of victimhood in our culture. And to say,
And yeah, and we feel sorry for people who have had, I mean I used to tell my sad story all the time. I mean, it just on the tip of my tongue all the time. And I remember one of my friends told me, "Why don't you make up a good story?" And I was just like, "Well, that wouldn't be true, you know?" And I didn't realize what I was doing to myself.
yeah, yeah,
I was making it worse for myself.
yep, because you're living in that, you're reliving it. So your neural
Yeah,
pathway is just like, oh, this is who we are, and that's what you're sending out into the universe.
yeah,
And we're not even conscious of that, but it's just like what's going on with our vibration that it attracts or detracts different things. And that's because we came in with all these programs from our families. And I know in the Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, he talks about like 6 or 7 generations back that we're carrying forth within us, and it's our conscious choice to change those patterns that are going to change our neural pathways into a different frequency.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. And the fact that there's so many different tools and teachers out there to help us remember that that sovereignty that we're all getting to. Like, you're not a victim. I know I'm not a victim. Do I have
Right.
programs in me that show me that, like, I think there's something in there that I should believe is true? Oh yeah, because I'm still in a body. but
Mhm.
but I actually ask people to tell me when they see something about me that I can't see, because I can't see everything.
Yeah, we have our blind spots.
Oh yeah, so many.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's the gift, is that I'm vulnerable enough to ask that and not be in a victim mode. Like, I'm just aware of it. It's like, oh yeah, I've got stuff I can't see. Help me if you can. If you see something that doesn't feel like I'm like being authentic, that I can't see. And for sure,
Right. I know my children really reflect that to me. They point out all my blind spot. Well, they tell me things and I'm like, really? I never thought that. But they got it from me somehow.
right, right.
So, okay.
It's all beautiful, because then you can start seeing it and then you can make the changes. Like, I have I my beautiful, beautiful body, I love you very much, body, um, has aches. My aches are actually just subconscious programs that I'm not aware of yet.
Mm,
And so as I unwind them, my body feels better.
How do you do that? How do you find out what it is?
I don't ask. Like I used to, I used to hound myself and be like, okay, what is this? What's going on? Where is it? Why did this start? Like that, those kind of questions. Now I just like it usually happens like anywhere between 1 and 4 in the morning, where I'll be woken up with a feeling in my body and I'm just present to it. I just feel it. Because like I'm too sleepy to think.
Mm,
And that's when my body knows it's time for me to be present. And if I feel my mind coming in, I'll just start breathing and I'll
hmm.
just be breathing and present to like this morning, something, I don't know if I was awake or asleep, but I felt some deep sadness in my heart that I'd never felt before. And I was either sleeping or awake. I was breathing in and breathing out, and I was just present to the sensation in my body until it went away.
You know, Louise Hay has a book and she has like a list of all the things that could possibly hurt on you.
Yep. Yep.
And then you can go in there and I mean, I use it for my clients when I teach breathing, transformational breathing.
Mhm.
Uh, but and so I don't really concentrate on what is causing it, but I concentrate on the affirmation
Mhm, mhm.
to make it go away.
Yeah. Well,
So
Louise Hay's stuff is very powerful.
yeah.
Very powerful because it's helping us recondition our minds into thinking different ways. So I want to talk about your transformational breathing.
Yeah, I went back in 1999 when I was 50 years old. Um, well, I always, in my childhood, I always had bronchitis or pneumonia twice a year, every year at
Oh,
Christmas and my birthday. So
oh,
December and May, I used to get bronchitis or
that's
pneumonia.
fascinating.
And so I was still getting it when I had kids. I mean, when my fourth baby was in the oven, I got it again. And so my doctor took pity on me and signed me up for this breathing class with, it was biofeedback and breathing.
Okay.
And I cured myself and I never got sick again after that.
Love
And
that.
so I belonged to this networking group. I was a graphic designer, and one of the ladies was talking about breathing, and I'm like, breathing, me, And so I went and I learned about it, and um, they had an information night, and so I went to that, and I thought I need to do this, and so I went home and I asked my husband. I said, I know this is going to be a growing experience for me, and I don't want to grow past you. So will you do this with me? And he
Mm,
did. So we were both learned how to be transformational breathing facilitators. And that was right before he got Parkinson's disease, actually. He got it in 2001. So that was 1999.
oh,
But just I've been doing transformational breathing with people ever since. And even during COVID, I did it in the backyard under my orange tree, um, so that, there would be, so I wouldn't, we wouldn't expose each other or whatever. But
I love
so it's
that.
really important to do the breathing. We store emotional trauma in our body on a cellular level in certain areas of our body, and so when I do a breath analysis on my client first, and so I can see where they have restricted breathing patterns. So maybe if they're not breathing in their belly, they had somebody shut down their free will. And
Mm,
or maybe some people don't breathe in their chest area, and so that means that they had a broken heart at one time.
mm,
And like you say, they could be bringing it from the ancestors.
yeah.
Um, so just there, I have a body map, and I use Louise Hay affirmations extensively in that. So I like if I'm poking around on somebody's ribs and there's a fear belt. And so it's like if
Mm,
you're afraid of this, it's here. If you're afraid of the, and it's
cool.
amazing how it works. And so I can help people move past things.
That's beautiful.
I There was one of my clients said that her ankle hurt, and she used to be a dancer. She couldn't dance anymore.
Oh,
And so I was like, ankle hurt, and it was like something like, I'll never forgive this one person, this, and so I kept, working on the ankle and saying, I forgive, my child. I didn't know who it was.
right,
And maybe she didn't either at the
right.
time. So I just kept saying different people I could possibly be. And then she just sat up. All of a sudden, she sat up and she said, "Oh, I just forgave my aunt. I swore I
Wow.
would never forgive her. She was so mean to my mother. And I
Wow.
just forgave her." And that was, every once in a while, you just have a powerful experience with
Yeah,
it.
I love that.
And yeah. So, so anyway, I teach transformational breathing. Dr. Judith Kravitz is the is our guru, or I guess I should say.
That's
And so I was thinking I should tell you about the Camino
yeah.
because the Camino is like way back in like the 900s to the 1200s. The Christians were trying to get the Moors out of Spain,
Mm,
and Saint James, who actually the apostle of Jesus, Saint James,
mhm,
actually um, like in the year 34 or something like that, went to Spain to tell people about Jesus,
mhm.
and he wasn't successful. So he went back to Jerusalem, and they martyred him.
Oh, wow.
And then some angels, they say angels brought him back to Spain. I don't know, people with the help of angels, I don't know. But anyway, so he was buried in Spain.
Oh, wow.
Um, so when they were trying to get the Moors out of Spain, St. James appeared and helped them get the Moors out of Spain.
Wow.
And so everybody really liked St. James after that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and so they found his grave, and then people just started doing pilgrimages to the grave of St. James.
Oh, wow.
That was in the like 1200s. And so just they used the Roman roads,
Mhm.
and so like in the 1970s, somebody thought, well, gee, we should resurrect the Camino again. And they found that the Roman roads were still there. And so it's basically on the Roman roads. Every once in a while, a freeway crosses it. So they'll have an underpass. And
Okay.
actually, I walked on the freeway a couple of times um, with the cars going whizzing by, and I was like, but so anyway, that's what it is. And the French way, you start out in France and you walk 500 miles across northern Spain into Santiago,
Oh, wow.
um, which is St. James.
Is that the
Uh,
way?
they built they built a cathedral around his grave, and so you go to the cathedral is the end of the Camino.
Did you go from France or Spain?
Yeah, I started in France
Okay.
and I walked across. Well, actually, you're supposed to walk across the Pyrenees first,
Oh,
but there was snow on the Pyrenees, so it was against the law to go over
that's
there.
probably
So,
wise.
yeah, so I had to walk around.
Okay.
But walking around, the hills went like this. It was like uphill, downhill,
Wow.
uphill, downhill. So I there was a freeway at the bottom of the hill, but I didn't know if I took the freeway if I would find where, you know, the Camino again. I didn't know. So anyway, I just kept going up the hill and down, and there was the freeway, and up the hill and down. So but it was so beautiful. The Especially at that point, the hills were just so close to each other, and I was walking on this trail in the hills, and there, like, it was really steep, and there was like sheep grazing on the hill, the steep hill. I mean, they were eating
Yeah.
grass,
Yeah.
and yeah, and their little bells tinkling, and you just look around and everything's green. Like the trees above you are green, the hillsides are green around you, and below you it's green. And it was just such a lovely experience to be
Mhm.
there.
That's
And go ahead.
No, that's just beautiful. Like I've I've been curious about it. I didn't know what shape I'd have to be in to do it, and a good time of year to go. So,
Yeah, I would not go in summer because it's hot, and I don't like it to be hot. When I went in April, like I started April 5th, I think.
okay.
Um, and so I went there. I went to Paris first, and was a tourist for a week, so I wouldn't have jet lag.
Good for
And
you.
then I flew over to Biarritz, in France, and I took a train to um, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. I
Okay.
stayed there a night, and I was ready to go in the morning. I'd been fooling around in Paris for so long. Um, the funny thing is, when I started, you follow these yellow arrows. They have yellow arrows.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and so that not the, the day before when I went and got I got my I got, you get a little book, and so they can stamp everywhere you go, they make a stamp in your book so that they can tell that you are a pilgrim, because they have albergues, and you stay in the albergues at night, but they're only for the pilgrims.
Okay.
So so anyway, you have your book, and it shows them that you've been staying in albergues all along, all
Cool.
the way from, and it shows them where you started and everything.
Oh, wow.
Um, so but they told us don't go to over Orasan. So they said take this road to the right.
Mhm.
Well, all the arrows pointed to Orasan because that's where you're supposed to go in the first
Right.
place. And
Right.
there wasn't any arrow pointing the other way. And so I walked 4 miles extra out into the hills. And then I got out to the hills and I saw the sign for Orasan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed the turnoff.
Oh,
And
geez.
I asked this guy in his yard, and he goes, well, you could walk across the fields. Like it was like way in the heck over there. Like you couldn't even see where you were going to go to. And I thought, no, I think I need to go back to find the turnoff and go that way. So I actually added I think it was 8 kilometers onto my
Wow.
first day of
Wow.
walking because
This
I
is
took the
great.
wrong turn. Or I didn't take the right turn. I guess
Oh, wow.
anyway. So then when I got back to, they had a little picture of a drawing of where you were supposed to turn. And so I was like looking around, and I'm like, oh, okay, this looks kind of like it. And I was like, wasn't really sure which way to go. And I saw these other people walking, and I thought, well, I hope they know where they're going. And I followed them.
Uh-huh.
And I found a yellow arrow. So I was
Oh,
very
good.
happy.
Good.
Yeah. So that's what you do. You see a yellow arrow and go the way it points you. And then you see another arrow, and it'll point you in the right direction.
Cool.
The problem is if you miss an arrow, then you're cooked, you know. But the albergues are they're like a building, and they got bunk beds and maybe a kitchen.
Okay.
So you can cook your own food.
Nice.
If there's a grocery store in town, they have a kitchen so you can cook your own food. If
Nice.
sometimes they have restaurants in town, and so they'll tell you where you can go to get a pilgrim meal. And
Okay.
it's like 11 or 12 euros for a pilgrim meal.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then sometimes there's no restaurant and no store in town, and then they provide the food.
Oh, okay.
So every time they provided the food, I said yes.
Okay.
Um, so I didn't have to cook, and I did. Didn't have to go to a restaurant.
I didn't know that. So like, how far are these paced for you? Like each stop?
Yeah, they have a lot. And so you don't like each town, like I got a book and each page, uh, well, they have a little map about how high you're going to be walking that day.
Okay.
And so I would see, okay, well, there's a mountain. Maybe I'll only be able to walk 10 kilometers today, or if it's flat, maybe I can walk 15 kilometers, you
Okay.
know. So
Okay.
I would have to, and then I would just kind of think about, okay, well, I just kind of guess.
Yeah.
And then I would call, I would find a place that was however far I could go, and I would call them the night before, and I would say, necesito una cama para I would say esta noche if I did it in the morning, but I think it was not la noche de mañana or something like that. And then, you know, sometimes they would laugh at me and start speaking in English to me. A lot of people spoke English, but
That's cool.
one time I wasn't going to get in till late because I had a long way to walk that day. And so I called the guy and I said, can I have a bed for tonight? He spoke English, and he said yes. And I said, and I need a lower bunk. I I don't want a higher bunk. And he said, well, that's kind of a lot to ask for. And I said, I'm 72 years old, you know. And he'd be okay. And when I got there, he had saved me a lower bunk, so that was really nice. But I wasn't okay with, because you know, old ladies have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I could just see me in the dark trying to climb down the
I
end
have
of
to
the
go to the
bunk
bathroom
bed.
in the middle of the night. I've been doing that for decades. So
Right. So
yeah,
anyway, so I always got a lower bunk.
cool.
Except for one time, the higher bunk was so low I couldn't even sit up.
Oh wow.
So that night I got up on the higher bunk because it was very uncomfortable to be in that lower bunk. Anyway, but it
Wow.
was really great. And you know, you meet people along the way, and you just talk to them, and usually people will say, why did you come?
Mhm.
And so that's how you would start the conversations. And then that's how I was able to like help people with my wisdom that I learned, you know, while I was taking care of my husband, being online, doing my own healing.
Yeah,
And so I would share stuff with them, uh, different people.
love that. What was your most interesting encounter?
Oh, there were so many. Um, One thing that was really interesting was I was walking out in you know, it seemed like the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't hilly, it was just flat, and it wasn't all lush and green like so many places are. It was just kind of arid. I was
Mhm.
walking, and I saw way off in the distance this castle. I guess it had spires and stuff like that. And when I got closer, I realized it was a convent.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, and it had arches and spires, and
Wow.
then some of the walls weren't there, so you knew it was a ruins.
Mhm.
And so I walked in there under one of the arches, and I heard Irish fairy music, and I love Irish fairy music.
I love it.
And so I walked in, and there over under one of the arches was this Filipino guy with a kilt on and a white t-shirt. And he was making egg salad sandwiches and putting them in little bags so he could sell them, I guess. And he had a coffee pot with coffee brewing. And so I mean, one of my problems was you got to find a restroom,
Mhm.
right? Or
Mhm.
else pee in the bushes.
Right.
And so so I said, "You got a restroom?" And he pointed over to a trailer. They had a restroom in the trailer. So I went in there and the door didn't really close very well, but I was just really glad that I wasn't in the bushes.
Right.
And when I came out, I got a cup of coffee from him, and then I just walked on. But it was just like, what did I just see? This is so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and then the Knights Templar, they protected the pilgrims back in the 1200s and all the years, and and they're still there.
Really.
And yeah, and so it's like they have a red cross made out of daggers, and that's how you can tell
Okay.
it's the Knights Templar.
Mhm.
And so every time I saw one of those crosses made out of daggers, I thought, ooh, the Knights Templar are here somewhere
That's cool.
protecting me.
Yeah, it's really
So
cool.
that made me feel good.
Yeah.
I went into this building that same day after I saw that ruins. I
Mhm.
went into this building, and this lady was serving coffee to everybody.
Okay.
And so it was a little teeny weeny cup, and she was just serving them to everybody, little plastic cup. And so I drank my coffee, and then she ran out of coffee. And so she went outside. There was a trailer with electricity. The building I was in didn't have electricity.
Okay.
So she went out to this trailer where they had electricity and made some more coffee. But then she came in and she was like washing the little cups without soap in the drinking fountain. And
Ah,
I was like, oh man. But anyway, she was just loving everybody by giving everybody coffee
I
in
love
these
that.
unsanitary cups. But anyway, I did get sick a couple of times on the Camino.
Okay.
I was in this one albergue, and this young man he was from Poland. And he came to me. I guess I reminded him of his grandmother or something. He came to me and he said, my bones hurt and I don't feel good. And I just like took a step back and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to get sick. And so I said, here's a bouillon cube. You could make yourself some chicken soup. And he said, oh, that's a great idea. I have a bouillon. I don't need to use yours. And um, so anyway, the next morning, everybody had to be out by 8 o'clock, but he didn't go out. He was in his bed. And so when I left, I told the hospitalario, that's what you call the people that take care of the albergues. So I told the hospitalario uh, that he was sick,
Yeah.
and I mean, they take care of you. They
Cool.
tell you you can't stay more than one night, but if
Okay.
you're sick, they're gonna do something. I don't
Yeah.
know, take
Yeah.
you up to another room or something. So, but so a week later, I got sick, and I was in. It was really great. I was in this place, and so I rented a room.
Mhm.
Some of the albergues, they have the floor that has all the bunk beds, and then other floors, they have rooms that you
Oh,
can.
okay.
And I knew I was getting sick, so I thought, I think I need to get a room, you
Mhm.
know. But every day, twice a day, they would have, maybe it was 3 times a day, they would have the meals. And it seemed to me like everybody at, it was cafeteria style, everybody at the meal was just kind of being away from each other. So I
Okay.
thought, I think I'm not the only one that's sick here. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
everybody's getting, there's something going around the Camino
Right.
right now.
Right. Right.
So,
Oh.
so that was Mother's Day. And so do you want me to, I know it's like an hour already. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm appreciating the conversation, and I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, really. So I wanted to tell people about something in my book.
Yeah, please do.
And so I have a gift for my readers. When you get my book, look on the page across from the table of contents, and it says read this first.
Okay.
And you can go, you have to double opt in. I'm really sorry. But you can see my pictures. So I made portfolios and galleries, and I put my pictures like per chapter. You can see the pictures from that chapter.
Oh,
And then
awesome.
there's chapter 2. You can see the pictures from that chapter.
Nice.
Because so anyway, that's my gift.
Beautiful. And I
Yeah.
want to ask one more
Mhm.
question. How can people find you?
Oh, wisdomonthecamino.com,
Beautiful.
wisdom on the camino.com. And I'm Kathleen at wisdomonthecamino.com. The book is on Amazon.
Okay.
It's actually Wisdom on the Camino, a spiritual journey sharing forgiveness and possibilities to inspire the rest of your life. And I really do believe that I shared the wisdom I got while I was caring for Ron.
Beautiful. Kathleen, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your sharing. And I so appreciate you
Well, thank you. I appreciated you too. Thank you very much.
so much.